Hey everybody, welcome to our Law Tech Connect preview. This is the first time we've ever done this, even though it's our third annual event that we're going to be holding live at AUVSI Xponential this year in San Diego, California. So really excited to introduce you, for those that aren't familiar, to the event and to some of the experts that you will get to see, hopefully, when you join us. By the way, the registration link is at the bottom of the screen. So if you haven't registered yet, take a minute and register now, because early bird pricing will end sometime in early March. So don't hesitate, make it happen. It's going to be awesome. I want to talk a little bit first about the experts we have here with us. Now, these folks represent panelists from our first four panels of the day that you're going to see at the event. And I'm just going to go around the horn in order. We'll start with Jennifer Richter from Akin. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. Great to be here, and thanks to Don and Mike for inviting me again. So I lead the telecom, media, and technology practice at Akin Gump, which is a global law firm. That practice includes our advanced aviation practice, where we're working with autonomous systems and advanced mobility companies and investors in those companies in order to help enable this whole ecosystem. So really happy to be with you.
And really appreciative of Jennifer and Akin. This is their second year as a premier sponsor, this year as our gold. So thank you so much. We could not put on this event without folks like Jennifer, and she's been with us from day one. So let's go ahead and have Erin Roesler introduce herself.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Erin. I am the Deputy Executive Director for the Northern Plains UAS test site. The test site here is one of 7 test sites that's federally mandated by the FAA. We've been doing the drone integration thing for 10 years now. It's kind of hard to believe that the program's been in existence that long, but I've been here now leading a lot of the operations and leading the test sites initiatives in that. And that includes, I also serve as the program executive for the state of North Dakota's UAS infrastructure initiative called VANTIS. So VANTIS a lot of times gets confused as a different entity, but that is the state of North Dakota trying to figure out how to bring shared infrastructure for UAS and make that a realized leadership within the UAS field. So busy here in North Dakota. We always say it's the best kept secret, but we're happy to be here and share everything that we're doing in North Dakota.
Speaking of leadership, North Dakota is a leader amongst the states when it comes to drone friendliness, and we're going to be talking more about that. But Erin is a leader in her own right, so thank you so much, Erin, this year, and to Northern Plains UAS Test Site for sponsoring a scholars program. Erin was one of our scholars last year, and she's paying it back this year. In fact, you guys are bringing a contingent of like 20 folks from North Dakota to the event. Super excited. Thank you so much. All right, continuing around the horn, we've got Charlton Evans. He's the CEO of End State Solutions. Charlton, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Don, yep, CEO of End State Solutions. We are a firm focused on the certification of autonomy in aerospace. We've been working UAS issues since at least 2009 as a Marine and a JTAC who had some UAS experience on the military side, and then transitioned to in situ, a Boeing company where I worked the Scan Eagle stuff, which ended up in being some of the first commercial work that was done with UAS for BV loss. That was around 2013. So ever since then, we've been in the industry, getting approvals, certifications, and trying to move the needle for everybody in industry with the FAA.
Well, Charlton is also a sponsor, Friends of Law Tech Connect. We really appreciate you. And man, there is nobody better for this panel that Charlton is on to speak to the 3 A's of advanced air mobility. And we're going to dive into that here momentarily. And last but certainly not least, we have Joanna Wierczorek from Poland with us. She's coming to us live from Warsaw. She's going to be flying into our event from Europe to be on our global drone regulations panel. And Joanna is one of the leaders of Drone Alliance Europe, who was previously on our Dawn of Drones podcast last year. So great to have you, Joanna. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's good afternoon in Warsaw, but I guess in US, good morning. So I'm very excited and happy to be with you today and discuss our future conference that's coming in April. Thank you, Dawn, for inviting me. And I represent Drone Alliance Europe. We are a member-driven drone organization that tries to work on a better future regulations for the drone sector. I have been working in the aviation industry for the past 18 years, so my clients are airports, airlines, aircraft producers, and since 2016, I'm also working a lot with the drone industry. I have been organizing many awareness campaigns in Poland connected to the safe integration of drones with other airspace users.
And truth be told, Joanna has convinced me to come to Amsterdam in April, right before this event, which is kind of insane for Amsterdam's Drone Week. So I'm really excited to work with Joanna on that event as well. But I wanted to, so this is great. I want to, before we get into each specific panel, just talk for a minute because Jennifer and Erin, you've both been involved in Law Tech Connect in the past. And I'd love to hear your perspectives on it. Obviously, we both come back, both sponsoring now. Really appreciate that again. So let's ask Erin first. You were at the event last year as a scholar. Boy, did we have so many scholars attend last year. It was amazing. What in your opinion, is kind of the value of Law Tech Connect for those watching that haven't had the experience to join us before?
Yeah, certainly. So I really found the discussions and the presentations last year to be a unique perspective that you don't see at a lot of conferences, especially in the UAS topic. In particular, it was in how the presenters and the faculty approached some of the most challenging topics that we have within this field. And what stood out was almost like a refreshing depth to the topics, how we examined the policy, regulations, the legal implications, liability, and standards, not easy topics, and really delving into the nuanced complexities that each of those topics has. And so while you go to other conferences and they might briefly touch on those things at the surface level, I found that Law Tech Connect really made them the focal point and had the deliberate debate about those topics and examined that. And that was, rather than glossing over the surface, that was where I found value from the program that Law Tech Connect brings to this audience.
Well, thank you for that. Honestly, Erin, part of the reason why I created my company, P3 Tech Consulting, was to put on this very event. Having been in the military and been in those conversations, creating policies for the DoD revolving around UAS, as a lawyer, I fell into the trap of not having all the right people at the table to make sure those policies were correct and to make sure all the different perspectives were heard. And so my mission, once I figured that out and rectified that, obviously, at the end of the day, was to put on this kind of content where lawyers, industry, policymakers, academics are all sharing their perspectives in, as you said, kind of a deep dive into a particular area. So thank you for that, because that's really a big part of my mission statement, and that just really warmed my heart. Jennifer, you're one of those attorneys, and boy, talk about an expert. I mean, this lady, if you haven't read her bio, I know Mike just dropped the link for the faculty bios. Check it out. I mean, just unbelievable. Jennifer, you've participated in this event. You've gone from an attorney perspective to a lot of continuing legal education or CLE events before. Now this event, I kind of use the tagline CLE for attorneys, education for all, because I really want everyone to come, but to get the CLE credit for the attorneys is great too. What is your perspective, vis-a-vis other CLE programs that you have attended, and kind of comparing that to what you've experienced with Law Tech?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that. And I hope, everyone who's on with us right now really takes note that there really isn't a conference around that is quite like this. And believe me, I speak at a lot of conferences domestically and internationally about these issues, about enabling systems for UAS and AAM and now, beyond into space. And there really isn't a place for us to come as lawyers and as business people to really learn some of the legal underpinnings of the law as it's evolving, as it exists today, and as it's evolving, and as it impacts the businesses that we're representing. And so I'm so pleased to be participating again. And I can just tell you, this is very unique because most places you go, there's a lot of sort of happy talk, and this is the latest thing that we're working on, but there isn't clarity around the legal underpinnings. And so this is a really rare opportunity for people to participate and to learn, similar to what Erin said.
Well, thank you so much for that, Jennifer. I really appreciate that. And this is really a great segue to dive right into these panels. Now I'm going to go out of order a little bit here. In fact, it might even be reverse order. I forget what I did here. But one thing I want to tell everybody is, and Mike's going to drop some links for you guys. We did tape every single panel from last year, including Jennifer's, which was called Show Me the Money. And that was all about how to find funding and work with the federal government. So you can check all of those out on the P3 Tech website. All those panels from last year are available for viewing. And we do plan to tape the ones this year too, but I think there's great value to being there in person and meeting all of these folks. Not the least of which is we will not only be having the event on Monday, the 22nd, but also Modal AI is sponsoring a happy hour Sunday evening, the 21st from 7 to 9 p.m. That's included as part of your registration. So we'll make sure to get that information out once we lock down the venue. But let's talk about, Jennifer, the panel you're on this year, very different from the one you were on last year. The title is, and it's panel 4, so the one fun right before lunch, the sky is not the limit, space is. As I was thinking of what topics to cover this year, I do some writing for Inside GNSS magazine. I've been to the Space Symposium, going again this year. So many people don't appreciate the impact that space has on autonomous vehicles and on the industries that we're all such a deep part of. And so first I want to ask you, Jennifer, this panel is really going to be focused primarily on space and spectrum both. Can you really foot stomp the importance of both of those topics to autonomy?
Definitely. As our autonomous operations are moving higher and higher in the stratosphere and even into lunar and cislunar space, there are questions about which agencies have jurisdiction over the spectrum and over the operations. How is all of this authorized and coordinated? And this really is an area where we all need to be looking and focusing, even if it isn't in our immediate realm. And to that end, I hired a PhD in space law to join my team, just a few months ago. And he's like lighting the world on fire. It's like so important. So I'll also note that, PK, who we all know from NASA, actually has invented a space traffic management system, and it's been patented. And he was the inventor of UAS traffic management, of course. And so everyone is really thinking about how do we coordinate these operations from ground to, the moon and maybe beyond to Mars, right? And there are all different agencies that are involved. So from a U.S. perspective, there's alphabet soup, which I'll get into when we all meet later this year. But, the FCC has jurisdiction on some things. The ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, has authority over other things. And the question of how they work together and what their precise areas of jurisdiction are, some of it is settled and some of it is under debate. So there really is a lot to discuss and know if you're thinking about your autonomous operations, extending beyond the surface of the Earth.
Yeah, and Jennifer, not just from a gee whiz standpoint to appreciate, intellectually what agencies are in charge of which policies, but, the reality is whether it's position navigation and timing that's emanating from mostly from satellites in space that everybody's using. I mean, heck, we use it in our cars when we, do a Google Maps or, just to get from point A to point B, not to mention command and control of autonomous vehicles. Of course, we all saw 5G. That initial rollout had some impacts on commercial aviation and people just trying to fly, to places like Warsaw, and the dangers that posed without really thinking through how that was going to impact spectrum. So I want to talk just for a second, Jennifer, about what folks might expect from this panel. Obviously, you're an incredible expert. We have some other really interesting folks on this panel and some great topics we're going to cover. Can you give us that around the world?
Yeah. I'm hoping, so we all have to, make sure that we're well coordinated, but I am hoping that we can talk about not just the spectrum issues and the authorization issues in space, but how it all coordinates with what we're doing closer to Earth. To talk about the agencies that are involved, to talk about some of the different bands and operations, to talk about the debates over who has authority. So for example, you were just raising the 5G piece. It's interesting to think about the lunar and cislunar authorities and how that's actually under debate right now between Lockheed Martin on the one hand and T-Mobile on the other hand. And you have to think to yourself, how does this debate make sense? Well, we'll talk all about that when we get together. So these issues are they're starting to become very hotly debated, not only at the FCC, in Congress, in the ITU, and every member state has their own thoughts about this, right? It's not just a US game. So I think that what you'll hear on our panel is some of the technical things, the legal and jurisdictional things, and then understanding what some of the important issues and debates are as well.
Yeah, super excited. By the way, just really quick, we've got Michelle Hanlon, who's the executive director for the Center of Air and Space Law at the University of Mississippi School of Law on this panel. So talk about, PhD in space law. She's got the JD, but this is like her world, right? From a comms command and control perspective, we've got Jerry Hancock from Viasat. Myrna James is a publisher and a consultant for Apogeo Spatial. By the way, I met Myrna because she was one of the hosts of 2 series of the Wings Over the Rockies PBS specials. One was on the Webb Telescope and the other was on the Artemis 2 mission. So what a neat lady from Colorado. Can't wait till you guys all get to meet her in person. And of course, last but not least, your fearless moderator is going to be Zach Doherty, also from Colorado, attorney at 3i Law. And so it's going to be awesome. Let's see. So Jennifer, anything else before we kind of hit the next panel?
No, I think that's it. I think that some of these issues that we're going to talk about on this panel really are otherworldly, and some of the concepts might be a little difficult to grasp onto if you're not working actively in this space. But I think you put together the perfect panel to really explore the issues and to try to make it easy to understand.
Well, awesome. And by the way, everybody out there, first of all, thanks for being here. And second of all, we are live. So Xponential just dropped a note saying great panel, thanks. So thank you for the comments. Keep them coming. Ask these folks questions, make comments, let us know where you're from. We love all of that. So keep it coming. Oh, one last thing. I want to, if Mike, you could drop the link if you haven't yet. Jennifer, if you want to know a little bit more about her beyond her bio, Jennifer was on our Full Tilt Leadership podcast, frankly, one of the most watched leadership podcasts that we've put out thus far. Her background, her upbringing, really cool deep dive into Jennifer. So make sure you check that out. We'll give you the link here as well. So thanks so much, Jennifer. That was awesome. All right, now we're going to panel 3. This is Erin's panel that she's a big part of. It's called State of the States. And, you know, I was thinking about this, Erin, in creating this panel in terms of that Mercatus Center report that comes out about drone friendliness. Talk about, to kind of dovetail on what Jennifer had said, you know, some of the controversial back and forth issues. A lot of people have issues with that report, the criteria that it uses. So we're going to be talking about that as part of the panel. But regardless, there are states that are standing out, you know, really ahead of the crowd in the United States. North Dakota is one of them. So we're so glad to have you as part of it. Tell me a little bit about, you know, what we're going to cover on this panel.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to cover that report because I'll say, you know, being in the top 3 on that report, I got issues with that report, and that is not number 1. But you know, so the State of the States panel is going to be jam-packed, and it's a conversation that we are having every day here in North Dakota, not just internal to the state, but with the other states. We're already talking to 12 other different states about this topic. And that's not enough. We need more states in this conversation, because at some point we need to have all 50 and then beyond, you know, deeply, you know, in this debate on how, you know, how are the various states approaching being drone friendly and ready for UAS integration. And so that's what the topics are going to focus on. You know, here in North Dakota, we took one approach. Oklahoma, who's going to be on the panel as well, they're going to have, you know, a different perspective on how they're handling and tackling from their perspective. Alaska, very different game for aerospace. We relate a lot to Alaska, but it's different, right? Which is also very different than Oklahoma. We have, you know, the similarities of a lot of uncontrolled airspace between North Dakota and Oklahoma, but then you go up to New York, where it's another very different landscape on how we need to approach and make sure that we're ready for UAS regulations as they come out. And that's what it's going to talk about. Okay, so FAA and Congress are working on these regulations. We hope to see new regulations right later this year, and then in the upcoming years go into law. So how do we take proactive measures at a state level to bolster commercial UAS activities within our states? Because not all states are created equal. For those that know, you know, we had someone of our local celebrity, right, came to North Dakota recently, Kevin O'Leary, and when he has been talking about this, and he's very well versed on the topic, by the way, he'll go as bold to say there's winners and there's loser states, and he calls out North Dakota, he calls out Oklahoma as being winners. So I'd hate to be on his loser list, because he's got a pretty loud megaphone to be calling out the losers. But what we intend to discuss is the factors and the contributing factors to being drone friendly, and what proactive measures states can take. What have some states done? Why have they done that? How they've gone about it, and the challenges that we have as each state has set up, you know, their drone programs and their task forces, and really hoping to leave the audiences with those, you know, valuable perspectives on, you know, how each state is working in this space. We're going to share best practices, lessons learned, so that really we can inform decision makers, both at the state and the federal level, of what needs to happen for us to be drone friendly.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. And, you know, this is very focused on the United States and our individual states, but, you know, folks like Joanna, our international partner, this conversation is relevant to them too, because like you said, Erin, to extrapolate some of the principles out of these lessons learned, you know, I think would be invaluable for anybody globally to appreciate what makes us a successful region or area. What are those ingredients? And so that was a great summarization of what we can expect from this panel. By the way, Erin kind of alluded to the states, but I want to do a couple shout outs here. Grant Giat of Drone Up is going to be moderating this panel. Grant is just a hoot. But also, you know, I picked Grant specifically because number one, he's an attorney, but number two, you know, Drone Up is in a whole bunch of different states, including Arkansas, which I think came out surprisingly as number one on that. list this year. I was like, I mean, Arkansas is cool. I visited there when we did our PBS special. We taped drone up there, but it was just like, wait a minute. Okay, Arkansas, got it. So obviously, Erin is representing the Northern Plains U.S. Test Site, North Dakota. Dr. Kathy Cahill is from Aquasi, which is Alaska. Duh. The Alaska UAS for the Alaska Center for UAS Integration. Sorry, I don't have that spelled out. I'm like going by memory. She will be there, and like you said, Erin, you have some similarities. You know, we always used to say in the Air Forces, why not, why not? Freezing's the reason. Like, you guys have a lot of cold temperatures, and frankly, you know, drones don't operate so well all the time in those temperatures. And so testing systems in those extreme environments is really key. And Charlton's going to speak to some of these things later. James Grimsley of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma will be on this panel. Dave Whitaker from New Air, New York. And then our attorney, anchor, if you will, Josh Turner from Wiley Rhine. Josh is very well versed in this and has been writing a blog about these topics. So it's going to be spectacular. I can't wait. Erin, anything else you wanted to add before you close out?
No, I think it's going to be a great panel to discuss again. Maybe the winner states up on the stage there, and hopefully that's getting some more from that loser list onto that winner list, right? But I think it'll be great. I think it'll be a really great discussion and debate, and I think we're going to really pick apart that report a little bit too. So.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, look, I'm in Colorado. I was involved in UAS Colorado, which is the state's nonprofit business league for the drone community. And man, just beating our head against the wall, you know, it's just really tough here in the state. You know, space, and to Jennifer's panel, hat tip to that. Space is #1 in Colorado. That's awesome. But, you know, the drones and the eVTOLs have definitely taken a big backseat here. And so you're not seeing what you see in North Dakota. And one last thing about North Dakota, this is like completely unsolicited and really from my heart. You visit there, for example, the UAS summit that goes on every year in October, like, it is palpable. Like seriously, I've been to a lot of places and a lot of great conferences and incredible locations that are beautiful, wonderful, great people everywhere. But the passion and the excitement for this industry is literally, like, you could literally feel it when you go to North Dakota. So excited to have you on the panel and to have North Dakota such a big part of this event this year. So thank you.
Happy to be there.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Charlton, we're going to be talking now about panel 2. This is the 3 A's of AAM. Now, everybody out there, you probably heard, and I think it was Jay Merkel was the one when he was at the UAS Integration Center, you know, says, hey, the FAA is always about these 3 A's: airmen, airspace, and aircraft. That is what they are all about. And when you think about advanced air mobility, and really more so not the drone delivery piece of it, although that technically falls under AM, I'm talking about air taxis, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. You know, how is that going? And, you know, Charlton is one of those folks that in his company helps walk people through certification processes and understand the regulatory landscape. So you've been on a ton of panels, Charlton, about eVTOLs, AAM. I think I saw you at Commercial UAV, I believe, with Tony Drummond, who, by the way, is going to be moderating this panel. Tell us a little bit about your expertise on this topic and why your background lends itself perfectly to this.
Okay, so from an airman perspective, I'm a commercially rated, licensed, multi-engine licensed commercial pilot. I spent my time in the Marine Corps flying Harriers, now practically retired. And in the context of the airspace piece, our team has created some of the most historic waivers and forward-leaning operations in the national airspace, as I mentioned, since 2013. So on the certification side, the hardware side, we've led teams now that have been responsible for 2 unmanned systems certifications, the Boeing In Situ Scan Eagle and the Matternet M2 multicopter. So we've kind of covered all the bases. You know, we have pilots who translate for the tech side into pilotees for manuals, et cetera, and understanding the operations. On the air traffic side, we have folks that specialize in that so that we can go chase the safety cases and work with ATO on the waivers. And then on the hardware side, the certification piece is kind of at the core of what we do. So, you know, I've been involved in aviation since 1988. That's when I got my private, dare I say, different century, right? And some of the jets I've flown are actually in museums now. And some of the UAS that we've worked with are actually at the Smithsonian because of the history we made with them. So, you know, we know what good looks like, and that's where our credibility comes from.
Well, you know, that background in general aviation, I think, is so key, especially, you know, it's so interesting, Charlton, how the FAA carved out kind of a whole different world, if you will, for drone regulations. And then on the eVTOL side, it's just like almost kind of kludging together random stuff. And of course, even on the going back to the drone side, you know, give the waivers and okay, we're going to apply Part 135 to drone delivery, which is really meant for commercial carriers and things like this. So it can get so confusing, and that's why I think this panel is so critically important. So can you give us just a brief overview of what we can expect from your panel?
Yeah, no, it is a great topic. And I love it because I don't think it's really truly fully understood by the industry yet. Now, the eVTOLs that are well down the road in certification, et cetera, they get it, right? But there's been a learning curve. And as new entrants come in, the learning curve is still there and it's pretty steep. As an industry, we tend to focus on the product, creating a really great widget that does amazing things. And then we wedge that into the application or use case, and then try to figure out how to get it into service. And in traditional aviation, it actually works the other way around, or at least it's more tightly linked, wherein, you know, there's a product that is certified, that's flown by certified airmen, and that goes into a certified operation. So in this space, like you said, it's a bit of a kludge, and it's matured a lot over the past few years so that people in general, or industry in general, understands that process better. All three are irrevocably linked, and they're complementary and equally important. When there's this inherent hazard to flying, right? And so we've got to rely on very intentional and rigorous certification linkages between those airmen, the airspace, and the aircraft to mitigate those risks. So it's a fascinating bit, and I think the engineering crowd has one take on it, the operations crowd has another take on it, and the airman certification crowd has their own take on it. And all three have different motivations and interests, but ultimately they all have to work together very tightly to create a safe operation. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and then there's the legal crowd that, you know, oftentimes Jennifer shaking her head, you know, Joanna in Europe, you know, people come to the lawyers to like help us get this certification, you know, or help us down this path. So, so many different stakeholders involved. And I mentioned Toni Drummond. She's with Prestige Air Group now. Always has been, quite frankly, but she will be moderating this panel. Speaking of attorneys, I'm sure many of you have heard of Lisa Ellman, Hogan Lovells, also a Commercial Drone Alliance. You know, she's been very deeply involved in advanced air mobility. So she'll be speaking on this panel. Historically, she's been a moderator. So I'm glad to get her back as a substantive expert on this topic. We got Dan Sloat from the AAM Institute. That's a nonprofit on AAM. Edgar Valdez from Deloitte is actually a lawyer. Most people don't know that, but he advises Deloitte on infrastructure. And kind of like you, Charlton, Glenn Lynch, he's the CEO of Volatus Aerospace up in Canada. You know, he comes from a general aviation background, has jumped both feet into this drone world with this company, created this giant Volatosphere, and of course now in AAM as well with the Nautilus larger aircraft that they were I think one of the first ones to purchase that. So what a crazy panel this is going to be. Super excited about it. Anything else you wanted to say, Charlton, before we head over to Joanna?
It is a great panel. The folks that you put together on this panel represent industry that is actually getting things done, right? They're actually out there operating. They're actually out there changing the face of the industry in their various specialties. So that's exciting.
Very, very much. And internally, I think I just hit a little like frowny face react button that you guys can't see, but that was an accident. So my panelists are like, why is she giving us a frowny face? I'm really not. So now you guys all know out there. All right, and last, like I said, but certainly not least, we are kicking off. We're ending this this stream, but we're kicking off the entire day with a global drone regulations panel for a reason. You know, we in the United States, I think, tend to be a little bit myopic in looking at ourselves and kind of what's going on. But there's a whole world out there, and we are all connected. And to know and see what is happening in other places across the planet in this space is so hugely important for a whole host of reasons. So it's great to have you, Joanna, from Drone Alliance Europe. You know, boots on the ground in Poland, running your own aviation event, frankly, next Friday, the Cumulacy Conference. You're such an expert. And this is your first time coming to Law Tech Connect. So thank you for taking that trip across the pond in advance. So what do you hope to gain from this experience?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation, Dawn. I have to admit that talking to lawyers from US, it will be a huge privilege. I'm super excited to be on the panel and discuss similarities, also differences, your lessons learned, your best practices, standards, and so on. I think that manned aviation, civil aviation, airlines, airports, aircraft producers, they work globally. So unmanned sector will also be global. We will all collaborate. It's not only about one country. Drone law is not only about one market. It's about global market. So I think that it's super, super important that lawyers who are in charge of drone practices within drone companies, drone manufacturers, drone operators connect and somehow they discuss the global cooperation. I really enjoy talking to my colleagues from US on a regular basis when they come to Europe and when we talk at Amsterdam Drone Week or in Madrid at Airspace Forum, when we talk about what's different, what's similar, how can we actually help each other, how can we inspire each other. And the companies that I represent, drone manufacturers or drone operators, are willing to go to US and are willing to work on American market. So I also try to help them to exist on the American market. And I need to know what's hot in your law, what's better, whether your regulations are more restricted than what kind of similarities and differences we have. I learned a lot in Genius New York program. I was invited by one of my clients to participate for 3 weeks in this program in Syracuse, and I saw many, many great projects. For instance, I was invited to the kickoff of Newer project run by Ken Stewart. It was the opening of the corridor between two airports. I really enjoyed being a part of this big inauguration. And I learned that there are states, as Erin mentioned, that are super drone friendly, where actually drones are a very important part of ecosystem, and many companies want to use drones in their business. So I guess there are many European companies that are actually hitting the American market, and your panel, this is a great chance for lawyers to learn how to make this possible, how to make it legal.
Well, that's awesome. And I think we're having a little bit of a technical glitch, so I just want to acknowledge that. I think our voices are fine, but looks like our heads are frozen. And of course, I'm frozen in a very stupid looking position, but you know, it is what everybody else looks really good, but you know, it is what it is. Well, thank you for that, Joanna. I think you really emphasized that we are in fact all in this together, regardless of where where we're coming from, whether North Dakota or Jennifer's case, Washington D.C., or in your case, in Poland. So I'm really excited to learn about your panel. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the other folks on the panel and the perspectives that we can expect to hear?
Well, as I know the agenda, we will have people from Africa and also from India. We will have an expert from FAA, so American Authority, and also ICAO. The panel will be moderated by Sarah Nilsson, and I will be talking about SORA, also BVLOS. I want to emphasize the fact that in Europe, we have many civil aviation authorities. So actually, the collective experience of those civil aviation authorities comes as the European drone law. So I will focus on similarities and differences between member states, and of course, I will talk about Poland, where I have my law firm and where I run my law firm, but I also want to talk about France. France is a very special market to me because I have lots of clients there, and DGAC, so the French Civil Aviation Authority, was super friendly to the drone sector from the beginning, and they have amazing examples of collaboration between EDF and smaller drone startups. I can indicate here Pilgrim Technologies from Nantes, and also Flying Dragon Pets from Paris. And actually they were, I think, at Erin's incubator in North Dakota. Of course, we will talk about regulations, but we will also talk about the most successful businesses that actually regulation allowed to happen.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Like I said, super excited for all of these panels, but this global one is one that I took a lot of time curating. As Joanna mentioned, Dr. Sarah Nilsson is an attorney also. She's from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Arizona, and she'll be moderating this panel. We've got Kevin the Drone Guy Morris. Lisa B from Viasat is going to bring that ICAO perspective. Joanna, of course. Eno Umu is going to talk about his experiences in Africa. Raghav Malik from IdeaForge is going to discuss India. And then Manuel Quillo from Speedbird Aero is going to talk about Latin America, but that guy's been everywhere. So, Singapore, Israel, you name it, he's been liaising with their civil aviation authorities. Well, I think that's all she wrote for now. I really appreciate everybody sticking in with us and everybody here. Apologies for the glitch that we have at the end where, for some reason the video isn't streaming properly. But, that's the risk of a live event. So thanks again for being here. Before we sign off, I just want to again emphasize, please check out that registration link. Join us in person. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have that networking event. And by the way, the registration price includes a 3-day expo hall pass. So please understand that. In other words, some people are framing this event up as an add-on to the conference. It's really the opposite. Like, you come to my event and then you go to the conference for free. If you want a full pass, it's a slight upcharge, but definitely sign up for ours on Monday before the floor opens. It's going to be amazing. Let's see. Before we head out, real quick, how can folks reach you, Jennifer?
Yeah, hi. So Richter at akingump.com is probably the best way just to email me. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Erin.
Yeah, best way to reach me is email as well. So EM as in Mary, Roesler, ROESLER at nd.northdakota.gov.
Perfect. Charlton.
Hey, C. Evans at End State Solutions, and you can find us on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, perfect. And Joanna.
Joanna Wierczorek. You can find me at Drone Alliance Europe profile on LinkedIn and also on my personal profile.
All right, very
Thank you.
good. Thank you guys for joining us, everybody. That is all she wrote. We are out here. We will see you in April. And by the way, panels 5 through 8 next month. So stay tuned for more.
Cool. Thanks, Don. Great work.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.